Everyone wants to travel, right?
Vacation, right? Come on, let's have some fun.
But have you ever imagined trying to go to spooky places? This haunted places inspire most of known horror movies that cause our nightmares. Here in Not So Random, we are listing down most haunted places that you never imagined to exist. Kyo House. This house seems to be normal, but the guests who stay at this place have reported sorts of haunted events happening there. This Renaissance Revival-style mansion on Columbia Square, the Kyo House, was built in 1892 for William Kyo, a local ironworks magnate. According to author and historian James Caskey, the writer of the book Haunted Savannah, tells the story of the Kyo House. William and his wife may have had twins who died while playing in the family's chimney. Legend has it that the twins still haunt the mansion, with guests reporting hearing children's laughter and footsteps.
Come and play with us, Daddy. Forever.
A guest claims to have felt a child stroking her hair and cheek while she is asleep. Another reported seeing someone sitting in bed next to her, with an impression left on the sheets to confirm her suspicions. Another ghostly experience that occurs at the Kyo House is the smell of perfumes from an age past have also been noticed wafting their way through the hallways or bedrooms of this haunted Savannah bed and breakfast. The separate prison. This prison in Port Arthur, Australia was constructed between 1949 and 1950 and has 4 wings radiating off a central area, which allowed for close and constant surveillance. It has thick walls and doors ensured complete separation and silence between prisoners. The one-man cells were small and there were special punishment cells for convicts who broke any of the rules. The separate prison operated a silent system, where prisoners were hooded, placed in solitary confinement and forbidden to speak to anyone. Conditions were so unbearable that countless inmates would murder their fellow prisoners. They'd rather face the death penalty than spend another minute there.
Inside! Don't you know? Please, 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 let me out of here!
Many inmates were reportedly developed mental illnesses from the seclusion. Today, Port Arthur is now a historic site museum open to the public, and it was said that hundreds of hooded inmates wander the halls at night, a handful of the 1,000 people buried in the unmarked burial ground. Ancient Ram Inn. This was constructed in 1145 as the home for slaves, masons, and other workers building the St. Mary's Church nearby. According to many, the streams on the grounds had to be diverted around the church's site, opened up the portal for the dark energy once used in rituals performed by pagans in the area. Later on, it was made into a public house, after the masons and other workers moved out. A person named John Humphreys bought the place in the late 1960s to preserve it from destruction. However, according to him, he experienced strange phenomena on the property. He said that he met the spirits that make the ancient Ram Inn one of the most haunted spots in England. He also claims that demonic forces grabbed him by the arm and dragged him across the room from his bed. During that time, he found evidence of ritual sacrifices and devil worship on the inn's grounds as he come across the skeletal remains of children he believes were stabbed with daggers. It was said that there are stories of the former innkeeper's daughter hanged in the attic, the spirits of ritually murdered children, exorcisms, and other dark, haunting events in the millennia-old inn. Strange lights have terrified visitors hoping for a peek into the afterlife. Today, the place remains open to visitors. Most are paranormal tourists who test their mettle by staying overnight. Before we continue this list, don't forget to like this video and press the subscribe button. Paveglia Island. Paveglia is a small island located between Venice and Lido in the Venetian lagoon in northern Italy and was used as a plague quarantine station during 1793 to 1814. It was said that the island hosted 160,000 infected people. Dead bodies quickly began to overcrowd the island and thousands were dumped into large, common graves and other bodies were burned. In 1922, a mental hospital was built to welcome the island's newest guests, or anybody that showed symptoms of any sort of sickness, physical or mental. The doctor that time conducted all kinds of brutal experiments among the residents of the island. It was said that the doctor working there practiced lobotomies, in which he believed that it can cure mental illness. During the procedure, he used hammers, chisels, and drills with no anesthesia or concern for sanitation. The screams from those being tortured could be heard across the island. As this experiments continued to happen, the doctor began to suffer his own mental torture and was pursued by the island's multitude of ghosts. Eventually, he lost his mind and climbed to the top of the bell tower and flung himself to his death below. There are varying accounts of his death, though. Some say he may have actually been pushed, either by an angry island spirit or by some of his furious patients. Today, many people believed that they were hearing screams coming from the island. Castle of Good Hope. Castle of Good Hope was constructed between the years of 1666 and 1679 by sailors, soldiers and slaves. The most famous sighting is that of Governor Peter Gisbert van Noort. Believed to have been a strict and unyielding man, known for his profanity, unjustly sentenced 7 soldiers to death for military desertion on April 1728. After refusing to meet the demands of one of the soldiers to attend the execution, the soldier apparently put a curse on the governor and he was later found dead in his office later day. The cause of death is said to have been a heart attack. Today, many workers and visitors have made mention of his bitter presence and cursing inside the castle's walls. They reported to see ghost of a large black dog has also been spotted on the castle grounds. The vicious hound supposedly lunges at people before disappearing at the last possible instant. A man and woman are also heard arguing from near the guard room. Upon investigation, however, only a shapeless figure is seen. Here, an electric bell is also rung by an invisible hand. Some reports describe a 2-meter-tall semi-luminous man leaping off the castle walls, and others report hearing voices, screams for help and shuffling from inside the Donker Gat, the dark hole, a windowless dungeon that used to serve as a torture chamber for prisoners. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum or Weston State Hospital. This asylum was constructed between 1858 and 1881 for people who suffer mental illness and is located in West Virginia. The place is said to occupy 250 patients, wherein these patients have their own comfortable room and can roam around the building. However, in 1950s the asylum overrun due to the increase of patients with mental illness and reach its peak to 2,060 patients, more than 10 times the number it was intended to house. Patients began to suffer from malnutrition, which only exacerbated their mental illness. Charleston Gazette attempted to send in a crew to investigate the inner condition of the facility, and they were shocked about what they found out. Patients were sleeping on the floor and in freezing rooms due to a lack of furniture and heat, the clear windows were covered with grime, the wallpapers were peeling and sanitation was not prioritized due to overcrowding. The asylum had also become a training ground for experimental lobotomies, as Walter Freeman, the famous surgeon and lobotomy advocate, opened up a shop. Freeman performed some 4,000 lobotomies, leaving sometimes perfectly healthy patients with lasting physical and cognitive damage. His ice pick method, which involved slipping a thin, pointed rod like an ice pick into the patient's eye socket and using a hammer to force it to sever the connective tissue in the brain's prefrontal cortex, resulted in a number of deaths. Villisca Axe Murder House. One warm summer's night in 1912, in this white frame house in Villisca, Iowa became a grisly crime scene of the murder of Josiah B. Moore, his wife, their 4 children and 2 young girls who were overnight guests. It was said that on June 10, 1912, the Moore family was sleeping peacefully in their beds. Joe and Sarah Moore were asleep upstairs, while their 4 children were resting in a room down the hall. In a guest room on the first floor were 2 girls, the Stillinger sisters, who had come for a sleepover. Shortly after midnight, a stranger entered through the unlocked door and plucked an oil lamp from a nearby table, and murdered the family using J.B. Moore's axe. The crime remained unsolved as the murderer is never identified. Over the years, residents of the home reported visions of a man with an axe, children crying and unexplained paranormal activity. Which among this haunted places is the scariest? Would you try to visit this places? Let me know on the comment section. Thanks for watching.